Okay, well, after having one foot on a banana peel for the last 2 weeks, it seems like between the two of us, oh my gosh, man, it's like something every day. So it's been almost 2 weeks since we've been able to live stream. We had environmental control breakdown at one point, and then I was smart enough to injure my shoulder and put me under for a couple of days, trying to get caught back up. So we decided we did not want to miss another live stream. So our compromise was to push it to Friday. Unless something really crazy happens, we should be back on our regular schedule next week, I hope. So
Unless AT&T decides to come out to my house on Tuesday.
It could happen. Anything could happen at this point. I mean, plague of locusts, whatever. Who knows? Yeah. So welcome to the live stream. My name's Andy. Matt's on the right side of your screen, and we are with Atlas Precision Consulting. We are a solutions provider for the Profit 21 ERP system by Epicor. So, Matt, why don't you run down the list of what we do, because you tend to do that way better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, our tagline is we're tool builders. But at the same time, we also offer, consulting on a array of different topics, whether it's purchasing, just general P21 functionality. We do implementations, data conversions. We do a lot with API integrations with other third-party platforms to work with P21. We do a little side of Magento e-commerce web development. And the fun stuff that everybody loves, like forms and reports, we can do that too. But basically, we are a company where if you have an issue, you tell us what your pain point is, and we try to figure out the best cost-effective solution for you.
Yeah. And, not everything ends in custom programming. If we can help you find a way to get 90% of the way there just by using features differently or whatever, we're happy to try to do that. We want to make sure that you're getting bang for your buck.
Which, I mean, this conversation we're having today is a perfect example of where a recent customer came to us and asked for some customizations around dispositions and shipping partials and this and that. And just playing with dispositions in P21, they were able to get there about 90 or 95% of the way without having to do any kind of customizations.
Yeah.
We want you to buy stuff that is actually useful and helpful.
Yeah.
Because you'll come back and ask for more help.
Yeah. I mean, what we don't want to hear is, well, why didn't you just tell us we could have done this?
Right.
And because that's not helping anybody. I mean, it's
too small of an industry.
Yeah, and customer relationships are a long-term proposition. So anyway, having said all that, today we're talking about dispositions and packing bases.
I know the plural of Lego. I don't know the plural of
Is there a plural for Lego? It's bricks, right?
No, it's just Lego. There is no actual plural of Lego. It's just Lego.
Well, it's a company name, right? How can there be two different company names?
That's true. There are Lego bricks.
Okay.
There are Lego sets. Lego pieces.
There are no Legos.
There are no Legos.
That's good.
Legos, my egos.
I feel like our audience is going to be much better informed now that we've cleared the air on that.
Anything I could do to help with that.
All right. So where do we want to start? I guess we should start in system settings and kind of talk through what's available there. So we'll I think what we'll try to do is do everything in system settings so we don't have to come back, and then we'll split.
Right.
We'll look at dispositions and then the packing basis thing separately once we start getting into transaction windows. So we were hunting around a little bit before we started the stream, and really the best thing that we came up with was let's just search for disposition.
Well, and it's one of those settings that once you set it from the beginning, you never really dive into it again. Like it's very rare that you come back, and these aren't settings that you're going to manipulate very often, if at all.
And the problem is it's like any system-wide setting. There's no magic bullet. I mean, typically you're picking the setting that is good hopefully at least 80% of the time, but definitely the one that's good more than 50% of the time, because a lot of this stuff is situational. So, you know, I can't tell you the number of times we get into these conversations when we're going through system setting review with people and they're like, well, but this or this or this. I'm like, I know, but you're going to have to pick one because you have to pick one.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of the nature of the beast. So if you're using service orders or production orders, they both have a default disposition. Service orders would be specific for parts, but so you can say that I want the default to be back order or cancel or special order is how that one would work.
Which I find it strange that, and we'll get into when we get into customer maintenance, where there is defaults at customer maintenance, but there is no overall sales order like there is for service order. There is no blanket wide, which I find strange.
There's a lot of strange things here.
That's true.
There really are. So you get the same thing. Default disposition can be done on production orders. You can choose whether or not to default. Do you know how many of these seem so hyper specific? It's like somebody needed that and it became a feature in P21. That is the only reasonable explanation. It wasn't like this would be great for the industry as a whole. There's just no way. Default production order component lines to S disposition when adding purchase notes.
And again, just like everywhere, any default setting, it's just what it comes up as. You can obviously change it once you're in there.
I thought you were going to say just because it's there, you don't have to enable it.
Well, okay, I can go on that soapbox too. There are many checkboxes and toggles and drop downs in P21. You don't have to touch them all.
Would stockable be one of those?
Oh, stockable. Stockable's a choice, not a default.
Do you want to enable future disposition for production orders? We will talk about future disposition, how that works. Here's another hyper specific one. Include ship to transit days, which applies to everything except direct ships. Okay. And it's got to do with promise dates. Now this one I actually think does merit some discussion. Okay. And I think it's going to be situational to your organization in how you interact with customers, how you manage cash, how you view inventory risk. So this is setting the order disposition to hold if the customer is on credit hold. The reason that that's important is because if this is turned on and the customer goes to buy something and you don't have it, if it goes on hold disposition, it will not show up in PORG. But if it's not on hold disposition, it goes on back order disposition, it will show up in PORG, and you're now buying inventory for a customer who's on credit hold. And so this is something I think that is, like I said, it's worth, if you're doing a system setting review, which do one every year, or every couple of years, but this is one where you really should be talking as a business about, hey, do we want to take inventory risk on a customer that's on credit hold? And again, that depends on how you're using credit holds and all this kind of stuff. But I think it's a feature that probably doesn't get as much attention as maybe it should, and at least it merits enough discussion so that everybody's on the same page about how the organization feels about that particular topic.
And if you are doing yearly reviews of your settings, keep notes.
That's a good idea. Yeah. What did we change?
Yeah. Yes, always make note of when you change something.
Okay, so this is another good one that I think gets set incorrectly a lot because, and there's really no correct or incorrect, but it gets set in such a way that just inordinately causes organizations more work than they should have to do, and that's the default disposition when you undership a transfer. So The way that it comes out of the box, it's set up to go to back order, which means it creates a TBO, which means it's going to kick out another transfer the next time you receive the product. And a lot of organizations we've worked with hate that because they're like, look, if I don't have it, I just don't have it. We'll just buy it at the other location. Well, the easiest way to fix that is to go in here and set your default disposition for transfer underships to cancel, and just cancel the back orders by default, and then you can fill the remaining need from somewhere else. Now, again, I get it. There's a million different situations, and we use regional distribution centers and this. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. But for a large number of distributors, they may not even know that this is an option out there. And, we routinely get into systems where they're just piled up with transfer back orders. It's completely messing everything up. And a lot of it would be wiped out by just saying, hey, let's just cancel back orders on transfer underships. That helps a lot.
Well, but this setting is under the wireless settings. Does it still affect undershipments of
as far as I know, it does, but I suppose I could be wrong. Maybe it's just in wireless warehouse. And if that's the case, I've never put that to the test. We could just save this and then we can come back into it and play with it later. But if that's the case, then we should I'll put that in the log that we keep on all of our lab databases.
You never want to see our lab databases.
Oh,
ever.
It's a trash dumpster. But in any event, if it doesn't, we've done modifications for people where we changed a disposition from back order to cancel specifically to prevent that problem.
I'm not a fan of TBOs at all.
I'm not either. I think under the right circumstances they make sense, but yeah, I don't like it for the most part.
I don't have a problem with a back order on a transfer. I have a problem that it basically completes that original transfer, and then when it gets allocated, it creates a new transfer number.
Yeah, and you kind of lose a little bit of the chain.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Was there anything else in here we wanted to talk about?
Is there any packing base? I don't know if there's any packing bases.
I think there was one more on disposition, but I don't know if it was worth talking about. Use specific costs. Yes, it's worth talking about. So this one, I believe, controls whether or not your S disposition items go into their own GL account, I think. So you can set up an account in company maintenance for things that were bought on specials. I recommend doing that. And I would say it's 50-50 on the number of times that recommendation's been accepted. Here's why I recommend doing it, because it gives you a de facto clearing account. If you bought it on a special disposition, presumably, it is definitely linked to an order. And having that inventory set aside in its own GL account gives you a mechanism that, that inventory account should be near zero. It should only have things in it that you've recently received and you're getting ready to ship back out. So, because you bought them for a customer, and so to me, it gives you a way to understand if you're getting hung up with inventory from people that are buying, telling you to order something and then they're turning around and canceling the order on you. That, to me, that's just anything that I can do to help prevent that problem, I think is worth taking a look at.
It also it will change the when you're ordering an item in order entry, you set the PO cost there on an S disposition, and it makes the order cost that cost as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for packing basis, you said the same thing. You can set a parts packing basis and service orders. You can then, it looks like the only other thing that's really packing basis specific is whether or not to specify a packing basis on POs. I know that we changed this for one customer and they wanted to use it for a particular reason, but I don't think it had anything to do with the packing basis. I think it had to do with how it affects some other feature in P21, but that was 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago. I don't even remember. So it's an option. Again, I think it has very specific use case. Most customers, most people on P21 that I know of do not use that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as versed on the packing basis knowledge as others, but my experience with it's mostly been at the sales order level and customer level, less the PO level.
I want to say that it has something to do. It's got something to do with what you can and can't get away with in receiving. But again, I'd be lying if I just started, saying stuff, because I'm not 100% sure exactly how that played out. It was one of the first things I got involved in when we started Atlas, and I just can't remember what that was about. But anyway. All right, so where do you want to go? Customer, ship to?
Customer maintenance, and then we'll do ship to maintenance.
Okay. So
again, we're just trying to go through all the general settings before we actually.
Yeah, and just kind of let you know where things are. I think one day we need to talk about all these different OE options at the customer level and ship to level, because this is again a place where I see not enough effort put in on the front end to make the system work better for you and work better for your customers. But I'll try not to harp too much about that. Anyway. So one thing you can do on a customer by customer basis is set what their default disposition should be when you don't have the inventory. So if you can't allocate the inventory on the sales order, then it can default to a back order. You can default to cancel a back order. Again, this is like basic blocking and tackling. Most distributors have a customer that says, I don't want back orders. Whatever back orders, just cancel it. You can make P21 do that by default for just that customer. Direct ship, hold, no default disposition, which I don't know exactly how that would work, but and then special order, maybe it prompts you or something, I don't know. But
yeah, I've never seen that. I would say 99 times out of 100, almost everybody has it set to back order.
Yeah, absolutely they do, and that's fine. And probably 99 times out of 100, it's the appropriate setting, no question. But again, you're going to have those customers that they have a different process, or they want their orders to be handled a certain way, and rather than having a customer note or a sticky note on your monitor, go figure out how to make that work. Some customers say, well, yeah, you can back order, but I only want, you can back order one time. Well, you can set their maximum shipments per order to do that, where you say, hey, we'll ship it once, and then after that, everything else has to come in before we ship you again. Because what we see are things like, it's the Wild West, because the packing basis is set to partial and the default disposition is set to back order, and there's no maximum on the number of shipments, and all of a sudden your customer's calling you going, why are you giving me 10 invoices on this order?
Yeah.
Well, because you're telling the system that that's acceptable. Where else did we find stuff?
Ship to info.
Yeah, ship to info general. Again, this is where you can set the default packing basis here, and then that setting also exists on each individual ship to, so you can set it there as well.
What does not exist is default disposition on a ship to. That is customer wide, which I don't understand why.
I was kind of surprised about that too. I would have thought that would have been a thing. I thought maybe it might be here under delivery or something, but I don't see it. That doesn't mean it's not there, but
it's not under OE options. I mean, OE options is where it should be.
ship to. Yeah, no, I don't. I got nothing. I am kind of surprised about that. To me, that would be a natural thing to be able to have. I mean, yeah, if you can set the order priority ID, it would seem like you could set the default disposition. But hey, nobody asked us. I have to constantly remind myself that nobody asked us. So anyway, so that's pretty much it. That's the overview, right? Is there anywhere else that you can think of that we should be looking? I can't think of anywhere else.
I mean, there are other things that tie to dispositions on a user basis, mostly S&Ds, where again, it doesn't tie directly to the S&D disposition, but it ties to allowing users to place POs from order entry based off of those dispositions.
Yeah.
Because you can have somebody set something to direct, but not give them the permission to actually create the PO, and then somebody else is going to have to create it in PORG or in an actual PO right-click to add special lines. So it's not necessarily a disposition setting, but it is tied to the two most common dispositions outside of back order, which is D and S.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess let's just jump right into what the different dispositions are. So we'll start right there, and then how you can kind of mess with them and manipulate them or whatever in P21. So let's go ahead and get an order going here. So the most common disposition, of course, I've got it on 3 contracts. I mean, why wouldn't I? The most common disposition is no disposition at all, unless you ship everything direct or you're consistently out of inventory. The most common disposition is blank or null disposition, which means that it's just going to allocate the inventory. So if we go in there, we have no disposition in this line. We can look at the extended info tab, and now if it was an order and not a quote, see.
Well, no, because it didn't allocate.
How did you let me mess that up? You're like usually on your game. Dude.
All right, so here's your first tip. Disposition means nothing
in a quote.
Quotes.
Yeah, see, I was just checking to see if you knew that. Oh, gosh. Of course it's going on credit hold. All right.
I thought we addressed this yesterday.
I don't know, but I'm picking something that's not on 10 contracts this time.
Okay. And you really should have quantity allocated on the line, but that's just me.
Well, it doesn't come that way, and we've tried to leave this database
true.
Dynachange. But I think that that's a good point, and it's a very valid point, is that you can Dynachange the quantity allocated onto this screen, which is going to save you so many headaches and so much time. Number one, understanding how much, if any, of it's allocated, and then number two, unraveling that very quickly from this screen if you need to make a change, because you may want to ship this direct. But if you're using it stock out of the box, you're going to the extended info tab.
Yeah, it's just you can't change the disposition on something that is fully allocated.
Correct.
And if you change the disposition on something that is partially back ordered, it's only changing the disposition on that back ordered quantity.
Yep.
So if you had ordered 10, only had 5 allocated because you didn't have 10, you would want to come in, change it to 0 allocation. Then you can play with the dispositions.
Yeah, on the whole quantity, because like Matt said, if you're changing the disposition on a partial allocation, you're really only affecting the unallocated quantity.
Right.
So we'll go ahead and 0 that off, and now you can see the disposition lights up and becomes available.
All right, here's my pet peeve. On the desktop version, the drop down spells out
what it does.
Back order. Yeah, like, and again, you're in the system for not that long. You'll figure out what they are.
Yeah.
But there's also some that are only available.
This is funny. Like, it's 2 different menus. So like it's the operating system menu here where you can't see the drop down in my screen share, but you come over here, it works just fine. I love it. It's fantastic.
But you'll notice, like, I think H and M are on this one, but I think if you go back to the other one, they're not.
Yeah, there.
Oh, they are.
Yep.
I thought one was missing. Is P in the other?
P's
Maybe
down
it's just
there.
the space. It's probably just the spacing.
Yeah.
Now you'll notice what's not there is T for transfer.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
I think that's because we did not set up a transfer days maintenance between these locations.
Well, we're not changing source and ship locations.
Oh, that's
to,
right.
To
That's
enable T, then you would want to do that. So, but before we completely
Sorry.
confuse the issue.
I just completely broke everything.
Oh yeah, you totally. you like reeled me right in. I can't work.
So
like
again,
this. I just
I've
can't
said
do
it before. I'm just not a fan of transfers in P21. So we actually had a whole transfer system designed outside of P21.
I did it again. I went with the item that's got 3 contracts on it. I'm not doing that.
That's right. Well, you already pulled it up, so why not?
Because I just don't want to deal with it. It's Friday. I'm not gonna have it. Okay. So now then.
And that's also something important to point out. When you did unallocate, that's when it opens up the source location to be able to be changed.
Correct. Yeah, if it's allocated, the ship has already sailed, so you really can't do anything with it. But and we probably need to have a discussion at some point on source and ship. Can you elaborate? Can I elaborate why I hate transfers, or why I hate?
And where have you been,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would like to know. I mean,
what do you need us to what do you need us to talk more about? Yes,
transfers. Why do we hate transfers?
Hate might be a strong word.
It is. I think the process of transfers to me is it's not even the process of the transfer. It's the process of what happens if you don't have everything on the transfer. So
Right. If everything's in stock, I'm perfectly happy with the transfer system in P21. The issue, and I speak from my background, we did a lot of manufacturing, and we had 2 or 3 locations out of our 14 that handled the manufacturing, and the issue with that is it was mostly build to order or build to transfer order. So if somebody puts a transfer order in for 100 feet of pipe that isn't in stock at the manufacturing location, you can't even print that transfer form with the notes on it, which may have specifics on make it this thickness, make it this, make it that, because it just immediately puts it into a TBO. So for manufacturing at different locations and then having to create transfers, it's just a nightmare. My biggest problem is it will just delete a transfer and put it in TBO, and I understand the point of TBOs. Like in practice, I get it. I just think it should be an option. Like to me, it should work like sales orders where it stays open with a back order quantity on it, but it doesn't. So it's really transfer back orders. And one thing I do wish they had, and we talked about this earlier about another project, is one-step transfers. And my previous legacy system before P21, I could go in and just immediately say, I want to transfer 100 of this quantity from this location to this location without having to create a pick ticket, without having to ship it, without having to receive it. It basically just pushes it.
Yeah, like a bin adjustment, except between
Right.
warehouses.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by a hate. It's really the transfer, because actually, like, I love pallet shipping and receiving.
That's the part I was waiting to hate on.
See, I actually like that if you have good, reliable people shipping stuff.
Well, that's my problem. You're screwed. If someone ships the pallet wrong, all you can do is receive it and then unravel the mess. And
you know what? I think we need to do a call or a stream just on transfers, and it's just going to be me and you complaining for 2 hours. Which I guess really isn't that different.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I was about to say, as opposed to what? The rest of our live streams? Yeah, so
okay.
I like the premise. I think in general it works pretty well, but my issues with it really are a lot of what Matt's are. I think the TBO thing gets out of hand in a hurry. I think that in a lot of cases, the user's not clear on what they're supposed to do in the case that, hey, I don't have this. So they let it back order and it goes off into space or whatever. And then, 2 weeks later, this random transfer pops up off the printer, provided you have a transfer scan running, which not everyone does.
Right.
So
and it may allocate to a transfer and you don't know about it.
Right. And so then you're trying to figure that out. So and I'm not sitting here telling you that I have some way better way to do it. I mean, I'm sure we could think one up, but just annoyances. That's really what it boils down to. But I guess we could open any screen in P21 and have that exact same conversation, Matt, because I'm pretty sure that's like kind of our thing.
All I really want is transfers to work exactly like sales orders. Is that asking for too much? I don't think so.
Do you really, though? Do you really want it to work just like sales orders?
I want it to work just like the way that I want it to work. All right.
This is so. I'm glad it's Friday, man. It's. I have to do every transfer, so I.
I don't want to talk about Torg. I don't even want to.
Oh,
I'm going to be sick the day that Andy decides to do a Torg conversation.
Oh,
no. I love Porg. I'm not a big Torg guy. All right, so B disposition is your most common disposition other than blank. It's the one that gives you the most flexibility as far as making changes later. Because most of these other ones, but there's 3 or 4 of the other ones. Once you set them, you have to unravel them, especially if you're creating POs or whatnot.
That could apply to this too, though, to B disposition if you have a linked backward. So
if you go in and manually link a backward, yes, obviously.
So okay, high level, if it's going into B disposition, then what's happening is you're basically creating a requirement that item needs to be purchased, even if it's already on PO. Basically, what you're sending a signal into the purchasing side of the system that says, "Hey, we need this stuff because we don't have it." Or we don't have enough of it. So what's going to happen is when you buy it and receive it, then the allocation will automatically take place. And
if you have it set that way.
If you have it set that well, there's even some caveats with that I found out the hard way. But this is, it's back order. That's what B is for. So the rules around that really are, even if you hit receive only in PO receiving, if it's a linked back order, it's going to allocate every single time.
Yeah. Well, and maybe we probably might want to show a link because that is tied to a disposition, and we can show that at some point.
I'm gonna have to write this part number down because it's not the one that's.
So again, B. It's pretty self-explanatory, other than, like I said, if you do link it to a PO, you can't just come cancel it off at that point.
Correct.
It then becomes like a DNS, where basically if you have something set to a DNS and a PO has been created with that link, you have to cancel it off the PO first, and then you can come cancel the disposition. But we'll get to that.
Yep. So the next one up would be C. For cancel, which I'm not going to select because I'll have to go unravel this again.
Yep. Because once you cancel a line and save it, there is no coming back from canceled.
Yeah. And you can cancel partial quantities.
Yes,
absolutely.
And that I'm glad you said that, because that is something that I personally, my company, struggled with line dispositions and creating reports and queries, where if you're basing it off of, exclude anything that's set to C from this report, the problem is it's going to be set to C even if you shipped 8 of them but only canceled 2 of them.
Yeah.
So you have to get a little smarter when you're with your queries or your report writing that you're looking at. Make sure you're catching that quantity invoiced and the C to cancel the other ones.
Yeah, at the data layer, you're going to have quantity ordered, you're going to have quantity allocated, quantity
to pick,
quantity on pick tickets.
and
quantity invoiced and quantity canceled.
Yeah.
So, those data points are all available there, but you're correct. You really cannot 100% depend on C Disposition for saying, oh, this line was canceled, because it may have only been, 5 out of 500 that got canceled. So,
and it will look, especially if you have your lines laid out like this. If you come into a sales order and you see it set to C, you really don't know what's canceled. You need to go to the extended info to really see, have we shipped anything? Because it has it all listed out there. So, which you can't dyna change all that into the other screen if you need to, but just be mindful. If you see C that doesn't necessarily, or B, it just or really any of these dispositions.
Man, that would be an amazing live stream to draw the ire of the internet. We could just go in and do an episode on this is how you should set up your screen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to just start an internet war over something, that would be the way to do it.
Well, honestly, we've been wanting to do a stream on basic dyna-change menu designer. So we could do that in there and tell everybody this is how your screen should be.
Yeah, I'm sure
what definitely should be is quantity ordered should 100% be the first active field after item ID. I hate when it's like the sixth one down, because then I have to jump over there, do the quantity before I can do anything else.
And on next week's episode, it will be what you should order on a pizza.
Not pineapple.
Oh, we need to talk after this. Seriously. Hey, look, I tried your frozen frosted lemonade thing.
That's so good.
It is good. But Hawaiian style pizza is phenomenally delicious.
No, it's just pepperoni and cheese, thin but not crunchy thin, foldable New York style pizza. That's it. That's the best pizza.
Open your mind.
With some garlic shake on it, maybe a little Parmesan.
Ham and pineapple, thin crust.
See,
but she's from New York. I mean, that doesn't even count.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's where pizza was created.
All right, I'm moving on. We're losing the plot here really quickly today.
I'm just trying to give Grace some good
shorts. No, absolutely. Yeah, we're trying to create shorts content that people might actually
trying to make content, man.
What were we talking about? C. Okay, so cancel. Cancel disposition will also trigger lost sales if you have your lost sales configured that way. So if you have lost sales turned on.
Have we done a stream on lost sales?
I don't know, but now I want pizza.
Yeah. I'm having my daughter's making pizza. We're picking up dough tonight.
Oh, how nice for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Just pepperoni and cheese.
Yeah,
a little bit of sauce.
I'm sure. Anyway.
Well, we shouldn't do these live streams at noon. I mean, that's what.
Yeah, I'm rapidly, my concentration's just fluttering away.
All right. I said we covered DNS even though obviously these are alphabetical, DNS are the most similar to dispositions.
They are, but I've got things to say about S disposition for sure.
Okay.
So we may want to just take it on its own.
Okay, we'll take it on its own.
Yeah.
You're the boss.
Let's. Sure. Yeah.
That's what my check says.
Does it really?
I don't know.
I don't actually sign checks if it's a direct deposit, do you? I mean.
D. Direct ship or drop ship as some people may call it. That was the drop ship was what I always called it.
Yep. Or it could also be called blind shipments or whatever. But basically, you are not actually ever going to bring this item into inventory. What's going to happen is it's going to go straight from the supplier to wherever it's going. You may or may not be generating a purchase order from order entry, depending on how it's set up. We do get into conversations about that concept of whether or not it's appropriate to give people the ability to create POs for order entry. And I think direct disposition is a place where I try to generally make the case err on the side of yes, but with limits. Because if you're doing a drop ship, you've got the price from the supplier, presumably. You know what you're selling it for. You know whether or not you're making money on it. It can just, the whole process can be completed in one clean step, and you don't have to get other people involved in the process. That doesn't mean it should be the Wild West, right? I mean, put appropriate purchasing limits in place. $1,000, $1,500. Dare I ask why?
Well, you know, talking about putting guardrails up, Andy and I were working on a project for a customer this week and found out that so a supplier, you can have a free freight minimum target value, and then you can also have a order target value, basically a minimum dollar amount. Or
right, you can't place an order for less than $500 with this vendor or whatever.
Right, which if you do in PORG or even manual PO, that stuff gets triggered. We found out that S and D dispositions do not acknowledge those targets. So if your customer requires, hey, before you send us a PO, it has to be $100. If they set it to D, it will allow them to just send a $5 PO.
Yeah.
Which is just going to cause a problem. And unfortunately, we tried to go every which way we could to circumvent that, and it's not happening.
No, it was kind of frustrating, honestly.
So,
but
yeah.
Look, every organization's different. You have to do what works for you. We're almost never going to say, look, you should definitely do this. So I get it. There's always a use case for it. It just, I'm always looking for a way to just be a little bit more efficient if you can make it work. And if you can't, you can't. I would say, I think we have a tendency as organizations that we don't want to offend the individual, so we punish the group for the actions of the individual. I've never had any compunction about just like, oh, you can't play nice? We'll just shut that off for you then. And when you decide you want to play nice, we can turn it back on. And if we have to handle it like preschool, then we have to handle it like preschool. That's fine. But, that's just where I'm coming from on it. Maybe I have a little bit of an altruistic view about it, but that's just where I'm at. Big things about dedisposition, though, that I think is... There you go. See? Everybody sort of wins, right? People that have been there over 10 years. I love... See, that you should put into your... That would be perfect to put into your letter. Like when you're offering somebody a job at your company, right? At 10 years, you get an extra week's vacation and the right to cut a purchase order. That would be fantastic. So anyway... but the biggest thing about dedisposition that I want to make sure is clear is because this is not coming through your inventory, it has no impact on the moving average cost. So, whatever happens with whatever the costing is, whether it's higher or lower, or the same, or whatever, you're never going to see anything in your moving average cost about that transaction because it doesn't actually flow through your inventory.
The other thing I would say on a D, and this will apply for S as well, once you do set that disposition, and if you have permission to see the cost tab in order entry, which I don't think this user is set up to do that, there is a PO cost field. If it's 0 by default, and that's right, basically if it's 0, it's just saying whatever your standard purchasing pricing is what it's going to use. But you do have the ability, hey, this vendor is going to cut you a deal, or they're going to charge you 10% more because you just don't have cost tab.
No, I don't.
The other thing to keep in mind when you're doing a direct ship, by default, it's going to pull off whoever is the primary supplier for that source. But you can change that supplier in extended info. Once you set it to D, you can come down here and change the supplier ID. So if Black & Decker didn't have it, but Home Depot did, you could change that supplier there. And then when you launch that PO, either from here or from PORG, it's going to place the PO with that supplier, even if it's not a primary. Now, I would say if it's not primary, it probably doesn't have costing set up correctly. So if you don't put a PO cost on that cost field, you're placing a PO for $0, and then it's just more. So you just got to think about all these things that you do. There's a landmine you're going to step on.
So you're literally unraveling me making the case for people being able to enter.
There are a lot of different ways to screw up a direct ship PO. Just keep that in mind.
So unless you've worked at your company for 10 years, don't even try it.
Yeah, put that in the setting. Just system setting. We'll do a customization for you.
Know what?
Checks the box for them at 10 years.
So seriously, reach out to us. We could do something where when their user account, it was created 10 years prior, we'll just go ahead and enable that user setting for them. That would be phenomenal.
And again, the last thing I'll say on D, disposition, pertain to S. If you have any quantity allocated, but not all of it, it's only the remainder that's going to have the PO created for. If you want the full line amount, you need to unallocate everything.
Yes.
And do the whole line.
Look, so this is just this is a me thing. This is P21 works the way it works, and it's fine. I never liked having split dispositions on lines. I just don't. I would rather, if I need 10 and I only have 5 in stock, I'd rather create 2 different lines. One that's fully allocated for quantity 5, and then one that's not allocated at all and set to direct for quantity 5, just because it makes it a little bit cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to do that. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but it's always been a pet peeve of mine. I don't like things that just seem to cause a little bit of confusion. So I've always kind of opted to just say I'm not going to do split dispositions on a line. I'm going to add another line and do what I need to do with that quantity of that line. F disposition, which I just found out means future. That's not what I thought the F word was that went with that disposition.
We can't say that. We're a PG stream.
What, your mind's going straight to the gutter. I could have meant anything. I could have said it could have maybe been full disposition.
Nope. Nope.
Okay. Future disposition is not on this list. I don't even know if we have alternate OE allocation set up on this system. We may not, but
we probably don't.
Yeah. All right. So this is going to take a second to explain, and I'll try to keep it fairly simple. But with future disposition, what you're attempting to do is delay allocation to the last possible moment, and this I think is a very common issue for distributors, because we have this conversation with people all the time that they're completely getting wrapped around the axle by allocation. And so F disposition, or an alternate OE allocation, is kind of designed to help with that. And the basic concept is it's looking at your purchasing settings. And so let's say that you have a 30-day lead time and a 10-day review cycle and a 20-day safety stock. So that's 60 days. It's all about how your system settings are set up. And we can go look at that right quick.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It's like we do have a P21 here, and we might as well use it.
And so I would say most people I don't see use the alternate allocation method. There are some people that will use it, but I would say it's less common.
Yeah, look, here I can give you the 2 use case scenarios, right? One for standard and one for alternate. If your business is like Walmart, right? You're bringing stuff in stock, and for the most part, people are walking in or calling in, and you're shipping them what you have, and then you're filling back orders. Standard allocation is probably all you need. But if you do a lot of project-based work, where you're booking projects months in advance, these projects are going to go on for a long time. You have multiple projects all dipping into the same inventory, and they're all shipping at different times. And you're going to want to be able to stage the material in over time, because what you don't want to have to do is buy all of it and then
Let it
sit on your books, and you have all that cash tied up. So you can switch over to alternate allocation, which is here in system settings under allocation. Yeah, sure, why not?
Don't save it.
Yeah, I won't. You can set these other things here as far as pick times and expedite times. So how long do you need to pick the order? Look, what it's doing is this complex calculation that says if the number of days of everything that adds up is like, say, 60 days. Today's May 31st, right? So if it's going to take 60 days to replenish that item based on its review cycle, safety stock, expedite, pick times, all that kind of stuff, lead time, then any order that I put in with a required date of July 31st or sooner is going to go ahead and allocate like it normally would. But anything that I put in for August 1st and later is not going to allocate yet. It's going to go into future disposition because you still have time to buy. Oh, I'm going to ride that for all I can. Yeah, exactly.
Fudge.
It's thinking that you still have time to replenish the item. So you don't need to allocate it just yet. There's a process that runs in the background that every day it's looking at all this data. And when it passes the point of no return, which just makes me think about Back to the Future 3, right?
I do a lot.
The problem, here's where we have a problem with our production. We don't have a at our fingertips way to just like drop B-roll shots in of this stuff when we think of it, right? I mean, there should be a train with red smoke coming out of it right now. But
I tell you a secret, it's my favorite Back to the Future movie.
It is fantastic. I truly enjoy it. Should we get back to talking about P21?
Do we have to?
Well, anyway. So once you've passed once you get past the point of no return, wow. Okay. Once you get past the point of no return, then what's going to happen is it's going to change automatically from F to allocated because you've run out of time to buy it from your supplier. And so the biggest thing, yeah, I know. And there aren't a lot of them floating around up there just to begin with. So anyway, she did it to me again.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest draw to the F disposition, because there's a lot of people that don't like how allocation works in P21, and that's probably a stream all itself. I know that's shocking. But if you have something that's not going to ship or the customer doesn't need it for 3 months, do you really want it to hold that inventory up when you could ship it to somebody else when you know your purchasing department? If it's set to F, it'll still be part of that equation for purchasing.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just it keeps you from having to go unallocate something from an order that they don't need, so you can then allocate it to an order that needs to go out in the next 2 weeks. But like I said, if you're a very project-based company, you probably might already have this turned on, or should. If you're just a fulfillment warehouse, you probably don't need it.
And the thing about it is, turning this on, it makes a lot of other settings become very important immediately. Your purchasing settings become way more important when you're trying to use alternate OE allocation and F disposition, and that's why I keep struggling with F means future, because if all of that stuff is not set up, and it's not set up like at least reasonably correctly, if your lead times aren't reasonably correct, if your review cycles aren't reasonably correct, then this thing's not going to work the way it's supposed to. It's not going to flip the order when it's supposed to. It's not going to push it to F disposition when it's supposed to, and people are not going to understand how it works. It's going to try to buy too soon or too late, and then there's factors beyond that like you could have all those settings right, but then if your supplier is erratic on the way that they ship or whatever, there you go. So
Also, there's a note here. Not that we have a script over here or anything. That it only looks at for the net stock in the amount of the look ahead days. So if you're only looking at, because when you go look at purchase stock card or whatever, it's set to 30 days by default.
Mhm.
It's only going to account for that F disposition item into your net stock if it's within that 30-day window. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And so, again, settings that are normally innocuous and have no bearing on how you're going to perform tasks, you're exponentially increasing the level of complexity. And that doesn't mean it's not a good idea. It just means you need to understand what you're letting yourself in for and how all the switches, dials, and buttons work. So that's the thing on F disposition. Again, I think it can help when there's a lot of competition for the same inventory and you're trying to keep the inventory levels under control. But you can't just turn it on and think, oh, this is going to make things so much better. It's just not that simple. Okay, /rant, and we're moving on to the next one. Wherever we were. H. Okay. This to me is an unsung hero. I don't think H gets nearly as enough play or utilization as it should. So this just puts that item on hold. So it's not going to allocate. It's not going to go on a pick ticket. It's, all of those things. But most importantly, it's not going to become part of the purchase calculation. So, a lot of times people are going, oh, I'm just going to put this on back order disposition because I'm not ready to do anything with it just yet. Well, if you receive that item in, it's apt to allocate. It's going to be part of your purchase calculation. So if you're trying to get the order in there, but you don't want it to become part of your purchasing strategy, or you don't want it to allocate under any circumstances or whatever, H disposition, I think, is a really good option that people don't think about enough, at least in my experience. I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on, a lot of companies have pick tickets set up to automatically print. And, if you're waiting to hear back from a customer and you have one allocated instead of the 3 they wanted, you could potentially end up having that one getting put on a pick ticket and shipped, and then you're tracking that down, and that's an issue. I agree. Most people don't use hold very often. But I do think and this is hold at the line level, not hold at the validation status, which are two different things.
Or hold at the packing base level.
Or hold at the packing base. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those things that people don't know what it's for, and so don't really use it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that it's B disposition without the purchasing requirement. That's my opinion. We had a customer that did a lot of project-based work, and they were trying to implement F disposition, and it just wasn't going to happen.
And also, this is not to be confused with tag and hold.
No, that's correct.
Completely different too.
So what we ended up coming up with was that what they wanted was they had a standard lead time from the vendor that was pretty reliable, and what they said was, here's what we need to do. We want to be able to... What they were doing is just not putting the orders in the system. They would let the customer's POs sit there on their desk until they got about 2 months out from the shipping date, and then they would put them in, right? Which was causing them problems for them to understand, really what their scope of work was. So we came up with this idea of those orders would be entered. They would go on hold automatically, and then we just set up a simple alert that said, for items that are classified this way, we use item class 4. If it has this item class 4 and it's on hold disposition, then when you get 60 days out from the required date, you need to send the customer service rep an email saying, hey, you potentially need to go ahead and either allocate this or put it on back order so that it can go into the purchase calculation. So it was kind of...
We have an H fan in the chat.
Awesome. That's good. So to me, it was, I don't want to say like poor man's F disposition, but we were effectively able to use it that way by just adding a couple of little customizations to it so that it's all about competition for the inventory that you have in the warehouse. And Matt, how many times have we had that conversation with people? I mean, it's
a lot.
It's huge, especially when people are just getting into P21 and they're not used to having a system that is that brutally stringent on how it allocates inventory, but it's there to protect you from yourself, you know?
Uh-oh.
What uh-oh?
Oh, our stream just kind of blurped for a minute, but it looks like it's back.
Yeah, so everything looks good over here, so that's cool.
It's weird. All right, sorry. My screen just went bloop over here, so it kind of threw me off.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, there's a lot of that going around today.
Yep.
All right, so we got through hold. And H disposition's also good to put those on a portal. You know, just so you don't lose track of them, you know that they're out there.
Yeah, and there is a hold order report.
All right, so for all of you people that are doing some sort of manufacturing in P21, or you're sending stuff out to be plated or finished or machined or whatever it is, I'm going to make the case to figure out how to implement M disposition in your organization.
Which I thought stood for manufacturing. Or make. But it doesn't. It's multi-stage process.
Yeah, so if you spend any time in the back end of P21, you know, it's called process, transactions, and secondary process. But underneath all of that and all the data, it always says MSP, so for multi-stage processing. So yeah. Even though you can totally just have one stage.
That's how we did our production.
How did you figure out how to do that, by the way?
I met this really cool guy.
Oh, wow, you should give me his card.
He offered me a job some years later, so it's great.
So look, the reason I'm a fan of M disposition, if you're doing a lot of make to order type stuff, that is a good fit for secondary processing, where we're taking one raw material, we're turning it into one finished good, but you're going through one or more steps to do that, some of which could be inside to your company, some of which could be external, like you have to send it out to a vendor to have the final painting done or whatever, or you need inspection processes, whatever it is. The reason that I'm such a fan of M disposition rather than put in the order and then somebody goes in and puts a process transaction is because when you launch an order in M disposition, it automatically creates the secondary process, but that secondary process is also auto-linked to the order line. And that's a good thing when you're making the same stuff on different orders often, because you can never get in a scenario where the wrong material is getting allocated to the wrong sales order when you receive, because it's all linked, it's all tied in. And as a bonus, when you print the traveler, the sales order number and all that information is right there on the traveler. So again, if you're using secondary process a lot and it's for customer specials and make to order parts and things like that, really take a hard look at M disposition and setting up some predefined routings around that, because you can cut the amount of time that it takes to get all that set up. I think you can cut it by 70 or 80% if you take the time to set it up right. And I've been through this twice where, you know, we had these incredibly labor intensive processes and we were able to bring them back, do them all with M disposition, and it just, like, you entered the order and the rest of it basically entered itself. And I'm a big fan of it. I think it works really well under the right circumstances.
Yeah, and that's the right circumstances. What I was going to add, the M and P dispositions, which are both for manufacturing type things, don't work as well when your location where the order is at is not the location that is manufacturing the items.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So it causes, because we tried to do, before we went to the, using secondary process or multi-stage process, we tried to go production order way, and there was just a lot of, if you're not making the item at the same location with the order, it causes more headache than it's worth trying to do. But yeah, if you're using secondary process at the location that, why wouldn't
shipping
you?
it? Yeah, absolutely.
Why wouldn't you try to at least experiment with it?
Well, I think the why wouldn't you is most people they might see it, but they don't really understand what it is or even know that it exists. And we find that really often with features in P21 that are really great, and people don't even know they're there, which is a bummer.
Hey, we all learn new stuff all the time.
Every day, like contract dates. Not that that's ever happened.
Luckily, that was just for a private stream and not for the wide audience.
That one we didn't have to. We didn't have to cough that one up
for the wide audience.
All right, the next one is kind of like M disposition. It's P disposition. This is about production orders. So this is the concept of creating a production order from order entry, and same thing. It's automatically going to link out. You can automatically create the production order. I think we do have a session planned for production orders and probably for secondary process as well.
Yeah,
so we'll have a lot to talk about on that. But the other thing about this too is that it does follow the rules of how your system settings are set, which seems intuitive, right? But some things don't. So if let's say for example that you have your system settings set up to allow multiple assemblies to be created on a single production order. That's a system setting. By default, I think you can only create one assembly line, multiple quantity, but one item can be created on a production order. Well, you can change that and make it where you can have production orders. It's got 10 different things on it to make. So if you have that turned on and you put in an order that's got 6 different assemblies, they will all get the same production order number. If you don't, you'll get 6 different production orders. In addition to, you will also automatically, it will create all of the production orders for the sub-assemblies, if that's a thing. So again, to me, this is a way that it prevents errors. It speeds up the process. It just kind of gets things moving along a little bit better. And I think if you can set things up that way, you definitely want to try to do that.
Right. And this and every other thing in P21, don't just turn it on and expect it to work.
No, yeah.
You need to go through the process, play with it, understand what you're doing a lot, test it a lot. But anyways.
And of course, it's only valid. You can only do a P disposition if it's a assembly.
Right.
Okay. S disposition.
Which I think, if I'm remembering correctly, if an item is set up as assembly, does it not default to P if it's not in stock? I thought it defaulted to P.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yep. S disposition. Why don't you start and I'll complain when I feel the need to complain.
Okay. The simplest way to describe an S disposition is it's a drop ship that's coming to you instead of to your customer directly, but it is it's not like linked like a back order link. It's linked like a direct ship, but you can add specials to other POs because they're coming, as long as they're coming to the same location. The best example I could think of somebody wanting to do a special, because again, you can accomplish most of what special does with linking back orders. I would say, like, the example that we would use it for, where I came from, was we needed to do something to a machine before we could give it to a customer. So we would special order this machine that they needed on an Disposition, so it would come to us, we'd make our changes to it, and then, ship it out to them. That's really all I know about Disposition. It's basically a special order, if you will.
Yeah, well, so so first off, I agree with everything you just said, right? So what irritates me is that's not what the help says. The help says, "Oh, this is when you need something that is needs to be purchased and delivered ASAP." That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, it doesn't even the hoarder disposition.
Because I don't think.
Do you have a bet going in your office to see how many times you can keep me from completing a sentence today? Because that's kind of what it feels like. I'm starting to feel
they're making up for lost time.
Yeah, right. 2 weeks out. There's a lot of pent up energy there. So look, I mean, I guess that's technically true that you could use it for that, but I think that is just I just think that's a myopic way to look at it, because it can do so much more. Number one, like you said, Matt, it's going to auto link out to the PO, which I like. It's its own type of purchase order, which I like. It's got its own purchase order type classification. But you can also enable specific costing for it, and it can be used to deal with scenarios like, hey, we just got a deal from our supplier on this. It's 10% cheaper, but we don't want to pollute our moving average cost with this buy. So because you can use specific costing, you can even funnel it into its own general ledger account and keep it off to the side. This is a really good use case for specials. And it just kills me that the help says, oh, this is for rush orders. That's dumb. It's just unbelievable. Just your personality. Well, it's funny. We enjoy it, and we're glad you're here. So, okay. And then T-disposition. Is that it? Is that the last one we're down to?
Yep.
All right. So you can't pick T-disposition. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you, Zachary. So T-disposition is not on the list. You can't select it, but you can precipitate it by taking a backorder disposition, or I guess a direct or whatever. But if these source and ship,
as long as it's unallocated,
if it's not allocated, and you have a source and ship location fields that are available to be edited, you can do this. It's only going to go to T when the source and the ship location are different, and that's a system setting too. So you can have a system set. You can have your
system or user setting.
It's a system setting. So
it is. You're right,
yeah, there's a system setting that says allow different ship and source locations.
Different ship and source.
Yeah. So again, this is situational for organizations, but if you want to allow people to ship from other branches but not do transfers, then you leave that turned off. So it did it to me again. I just like shiny object.
Well, here's one other thing I'm not crazy. The actual sales still is based off a sales location ID, regardless of what location it ships out of.
Well, I see that part I like.
See, I don't like that, because if I'm the location that you're making me box it up and ship it to you first, so you can then get your customer, I need to recoup some of that. You're using my labor to ship to you.
So you can do that, and I have done that at grand scale. You can absolutely do that through interbranch charges and stuff like that. There's ways that can be handled where you can say, hey, we're going to assess a fee of X amount of dollars per line. You create a journal entry that moves, money through interbranch, and you can do that. But
we did that to keep people from just trying to steal other locations' inventory without any regard to. I don't want to talk about transfers anymore.
Well, we're on T disposition.
I
So
don't like
guess
transfer.
what? We're talking about transfers.
Everybody should just have one location.
Well, I mean, it's just like,
I don't want to get into it.
There's too much damn time that gets wasted of people trying to move things from the left pocket to the right pocket, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's just this unbelievable amount of angst and energy that gets wasted. And it gets worse the bigger the organization gets, right?
Or the more incentive a branch manager has for selling. So.
Right. And then it almost becomes insidious, and people are trying to like figure out how to screw the other branch. Hey, newsflash, you're all on the same team, and like fight your competition half as hard as you're fighting your own internal organization, and you'll probably be highly successful. But I get it. I understand where it comes from. And look, the pay plans are usually set up to actually incentivize this type of behavior. And I hate that. I really do. And I'm not saying it's always going to be kumbaya and this and that and the other. And it can't be a free-for-all either. But like, I don't know, man. I'm really about to go off the. I'm really about to.
Let's just change the source location.
Yeah,
on
let's
this
do
one.
that instead. So if you allow the source and ship location to be different by system setting, that then will enable you to have a T disposition, which means I'm going to transfer this item. It's going to create a transfer for that item, and then off you go.
Can you back order that again?
I don't think so. I think all I can do with it now is cancel it.
Okay, cool. I was just wondering. You can only cancel a transfer back. Oh god.
Yeah. So
it doesn't even create a transfer. It just creates a transfer. It created a transfer back.
Well, so that was kind of weird, dude. Did you see that? So it says you can only cancel it. So I canceled it. Then I back ordered it, but it's still got the wrong source and ship location for a back order. Now I just want to see what's going to happen. Your changes cannot be saved.
Because you don't know how to use P21.
Yeah, you're fired. Pick up your last check. Okay, now I want to see what it actually did.
Yeah, what did that actually do?
It's in B.
All right, it's B.
And these are now available, but they're wrong.
So did it actually back order in location 20?
Let's find out. I now I need to know.
That's F2 on your keyboard.
I pushed it already. Thank you. Bruh. That is horrendous.
Wait, so drill down into the back order quantity.
That's awful. Okay, so we're gonna re-demonstrate this nightmare so that when your inventory is completely yanked up and you can't figure out why, here's a potential reason.
That is not.
That's not good. That's
not working as intended.
No, this is bad. Okay, so we're gonna put this item in, or not. Did I miss a zero? I think I missed a zero.
Yeah. And a space.
Okay. So we're going to put in an order for 50. And then we're going to go over here to extended info. And we're going to deallocate it. And we're going to set it to transfer disposition. Okay. Now.
Nope.
Quote. Why'd you let me do
Dang
that?
It.
Why, Matt? You're supposed to be protecting me from myself.
You know what we should do? Change the user setting to stop defaulting to quote.
Whatever. I don't know.
How much testing do we actually need quotes for?
It'll start the day after I change the setting.
when we cover quotes in our next call.
50. Extended info. Okay, so we're going to deallocate. We're going to change the source location. We get a T disposition. Now, if I try to set this to back order, it will not allow me to do that. You can only cancel a transfer back order. Okay, fine. I'm going to cancel it. Now it's canceled. Okay? Now I'm just going to take the C disposition and change it to B and save the order. So now what I've done is created a back order in a different location. That's not the ship location and has nothing to do with a transfer because it's no longer in T disposition. So there you go. I wonder what would, oh, you know what? This would be interesting. What happens if you try to change it back, change the location back? Oh yeah, it just lets you do it and then allocates it.
But it changed the source location though when you did it though.
Well, I changed the source location and then it just so when I changed the source location, it allocated the inventory.
Wait, hit clear. I want you to go back into the. Don't save this. I want you to go back into it. I want because I totally missed what you did there. So pull that order back up.
Yeah.
I want to see something. So on the extended info, what if you, since it's on a back order, can you now allocate? So what happens if you allocate the 50? Does it allocate it to?
Yep. But now it's going to be.
But it's not a T disposition. It's allocated at an. Wow.
But that's not what I did. What I did.
I know, but.
Was even worse.
But you can't do anything with. Well, I guess if you ran Torg, maybe it would catch it.
I don't know, man. But now you're going to have this phony quantity back ordered sitting out there. So what I did was I just went in and changed this to 10, and then it went ahead and just allocated it because now that inventory is available here. So now I'm going to deallocate it and let it back order. And let's see if we can create a back order in both locations for the same order.
No, I'm sure it had to clean it up.
I would hope so.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know why I'm so confident in that statement. That's this location. Go back to the other location.
Okay.
20.
Okay, that's the original one I did. So at least it's not doubling up the back order. But that's kind of icky.
Yeah.
I mean, like a lot icky.
A lot icky.
Okay.
Let's talk about bulk changing of disposition on a sales order.
Let's. All right.
So, we talk about learning new things all the time. So we had a customer that is trying to only pick and choose certain things that they want to put on a pick ticket at a time. Without having to manually go to the extended info tab and do all this stuff. So what we had them do was we had them put the quantity allocated on the line tab, which should already be there. And if you right click up on the order header, you can set the whole disposition for any. You can do this before you even put items on there. Or you can do it after the fact. You only have certain amounts that you can pick from. Which I don't know if you can see on the screen.
No, you can't. It's back order, direct ship, hold, and special. So
you can't do any of the manufacturing ones. You can't do transfer. You can't do. Well, I don't know if you could do. You probably couldn't do future since that's I think a system calculated thing. But the cool thing is, if you had like 10 items all allocated and you only wanted to ship 2 or 3, you could set them all to hold or set them all to back order. Because when you do that, it does ask you if you want to apply it to the lines. And so what that does is that unallocates all of that inventory. Mm-hmm. You can go through, pick out the ones that you want to ship and reallocate those. Again, if you had the line details there, you could do that. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if that works on hold. I know it works on back order. I just don't know if it works on hold.
What's that?
If you say put just 10 on there, would it let you? Well, because it would allocate those 10, so it would still do it. Right? You can still allocate. Okay, cool. So basically 40 are on hold at that point.
I had never actually tried that before. That's interesting.
So either way, the way the customer's doing it, they're back ordering it, they're allocating the ones, they print a pick ticket, and then to reallocate everything, this is the thing I learned last week, when you go to order disposition, if you leave it to the blank one, it goes through and reallocates everything on the order. As long as you say yes to that or okay to that. So it was kind of their way of working around not having to use tag and hold, basically.
Yeah.
Because tag and hold didn't work for them because they weren't actually holding it at their location, which is a whole tax jurisdiction issue. It was so they could parcel out, as they wanted to. Here's 2 cases of this and 1 cases of this. So yeah. And you can set that from the beginning. So if you're entering a direct ship order for a customer, you can start from the beginning, set it to direct, and every single line you add on there is going to default to a D disposition.
Yeah.
So you don't have to unallocate. You don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to fight the system as much. I mean,
Right,
and it's counterintuitive because that's at the header level, and that's not where you would normally think about dealing with dispositions. Because if you right-click down here in the bottom, that doesn't matter where, you're not going to get that option. So it's really only up here that you can get that option. But it is great because, to very quickly deallocate and reallocate everything, that's the way to do it. So I am a fan of that for sure. I feel like we're at the natural breaking point. We're ready to go to packing basis. So do we want to take 10 minutes? Let everybody run for coffee and pizza and their 10-year anniversary plaque. I don't know. We'll do that, and then we'll come back and get into packing basis.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back. So here we go again. More P21 fun and frolic. Although I hate to put you on the spot, but I don't, because I enjoy putting you on the spot.
Me?
You got to show the pseudo armor thing. That thing is stinking cool. So look, for those of you that don't know, Matt is like a hyper creative individual, and so So like he creating these things and painting them and sell them at different shows and stuff like that, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, he's like he's going to completely outgrow this little P21 YouTube channel and be famous, and I'll be begging him for his autograph and all this good stuff. But I just think it's super cool, man. I really enjoy seeing what you come up with, every time you're doing something different. I think it's really cool, and he's always posting pictures in our team's chat with different projects that he's working on. So it's really cool. While we were at the break, I was looking at the chat stream and looking at Soyo's last comment, and it just, we just kind of came up with this for you, Soyo. So, take that one into your weekend and enjoy it.
That makes me laugh.
Makes me laugh too. Okay. Nerd humor. Alrighty. So we are moving on to packing basis now.
And this is going to be one that, I get to sit back and learn a little bit. It wasn't really needed from where I came from, and it's obviously one of those. I've been here for just over 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that comes up very infrequently, so I'm excited to learn something new today.
I think a lot of times it is looked at as almost like a derivative of disposition, but I don't really feel like that's what it is. Well, it's not. But I think, number one, it's buried on like the ship info tab, in order entry. So people don't even think about the fact that it's there. Paul, welcome to the chat. Appreciate you dropping by. And hey, look, for those of you that are on and watching, first off, thank you. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. Is Friday a better day for you guys than Tuesday? We were just talking about that during the break as well. And I don't know. I mean, we're getting a little bit better participation on a Friday than we do typically midweek. So if you guys like Friday for a live stream day, we're like, I'm all for something that doesn't make me work as hard on Friday. So, I'm just saying it would not offend us. Let us know in the chat if that's a better day for you guys, and we are happy to move it a little bit. Anyway, appreciate it. So, moving on to the next topic, which is packing basis.
You're not sharing.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, there goes. Sorry, delay. Totally sharing.
I absolutely just it's like Rodney Dangerfield, man. I get no respect. I'm dating myself with that. I know. I don't care. If you don't understand what that is, go look up Rodney Dangerfield on YouTube. We know you know how to use it because you're here already. That's what comedy was when it was still funny. Anyway, moving on. So packing basis, it's a setting that gives you
Back to School. Love that movie, by the way.
that the triple Lindy, right? Robert Downey Jr. was in that too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Robert Downey Jr. was in that. That was a very good movie. Anyway, if you want to watch some really good stuff, go back and look at Dangerfield's older stuff when he would go on like Johnny Carson and stuff like that. He had some really good stuff on that. I digress. So on the ship info tab, you have a packing basis drop down, and your options are hold, item complete, item partial. Oh, so we can't embarrass you in front of the entire office on Fridays. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. You've got order complete, partial / order, and tag and hold. And we're going to go through what those mean. I typically see people using partial.
Yeah.
And then sometimes order complete, and I don't see people. Ladybugs. Wow, I totally forgot about that one.
I don't think that movie would fly in today's world.
No.
It's a boy playing a girl soccer team.
There are a lot of movies that were staples when we were kids that would not fly in this day and age, because we have, as a species, I think we have forgotten how to laugh at ourselves. Wow, we could take the live stream. We could take a live stream in a direction that would get us banned from YouTube if we keep going.
Let's just talk about
maybe
the
one day it'll
exciting
be
world
worth it.
of
That's what we'll
packing
do for
basis.
our last one. Just everything's on the table. His old HBO specials were awesome too. There's a lot of the old ones like that. Not just Dangerfield, but like I was liked.
What was the guy's name that would yell and scream?
Sam Kinison. He was in Back to School.
He was actually in Back to School. That's right. He was the teacher.
Kinison. So
he was a Vietnam vet that was in.
He
teaching it.
There was his last album, I think, was called Live from Hell or something like that. It was pretty funny. Look, if you have kids, make sure you're not turning this stuff on with your kids in the room. It's totally not kid appropriate, but it is also totally. It's kind of like The Big Lebowski, right? You don't want to watch it around your kids, but it's incredibly funny.
That's like your opinion, man.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that is.
All right, sorry.
My wife and kids bought me the sweater for Christmas one year, man. It's fantastic. It was like my favorite because it's consistently funny through the entire thing. Okay. Packing basis, right? That's what we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah, partial is your most common. Partial is going to be your one where
that's your Wild West setting.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many shipments. It doesn't matter well, technically shipments can be controlled
Yeah.
differently, but basically what you're saying is we don't care. Our customer doesn't care. Just ship it as you have it.
Yep. Yep.
Ship complete.
As you receive something in that fills the back order, even if it only partially fills it, print a pick ticket, get it out the door. So that's
Can you can't do a packing basis based on a line. It's only at an order level.
no,
or is
but
there...
some of the packing bases do affect at the line level.
Okay.
So like, hey, great segue, by the way. I don't know if you meant to do that.
Totally.
Item partial would be next. And essentially what you're saying is, and this one's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around. Ship any complete item. This is weird. Ship any complete item and then anything else available as long as you have one item that can ship complete. Like, what in the hell is the use case for that? Please, someone out there explain to me, like, what customer says you can ship me partials as long as you're shipping me one thing complete.
That seems very specific.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
it's like oddly specific, man. I don't get it. I don't know, but it is what it is. All right, hold disposition. That does kind of work.
Packing basis.
Yeah, you're correct. A hold packing basis kind of works like hold disposition, where the entire order is going to be held. In the help, it says until a supervisor or qualified person releases it.
That's
Like,
10 years or longer.
how does
so.
right? How does P21 know who's qualified?
Yeah, I mean, is there a user setting that has to do with that? Like, I don't understand. You know what I don't need in my help files? Flavor. Just tell me what it does and doesn't do. Look,
I'm struggling right now because now that we're talking about Rodney Dangerfield, I really just want to go watch Caddyshack. That could have been one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Anyway, so we got through hold. Okay, so when you change, now this is again hyper specific. When you change an open pick and hold pick ticket to hold, you're going to get a warning. And if you say yes to that warning, this is so weird. If you say yes to the warning, then the system's going to put the pick and hold into a staging bin, and then it can't be shipped until you change the packing basis to something else to print a regular pick ticket. Dude, that's so confusing. How in the hell could anyone figure that out?
I got nothing.
What?
I got nothing.
If you say no, then you're just not changing it to hold. I mean, like for real, man. What the hell? All right. Anyway, the next one would be item complete. This one's actually pretty simple. You're only going to ship items when they become complete, so you're never going to, ship a partial quantity on an item.
Okay, so that would be the line level of ship complete.
Correct.
Okay.
So you're saying even if I've got 10 items on this order, I'm only going to ship them as the line completes. So
unlike the other one, which would then just ship everything else on.
If only one were complete, and only on Tuesdays in May if you've worked there for 10 years. Yeah.
So to me, item complete, order complete seem
reasonable.
Reasonable, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can go ahead and catch order complete right quick, which is just what it sounds like. It's don't ship it until the entire order is complete.
And by complete means allocated, right?
Yeah, you have everything in stock, and it basically means one pick ticket, one invoice for everything that the customer ordered. That's the easiest way to describe it. And then partial / order. This is weird.
Oh, this is the one where I guess that setting and customer maintenance for number of orders only applies
I don't think
to.
that's right. I think that setting applies no matter what. So I don't understand. Okay, so look, what it says is this packing basis tells the distributor to limit the number of partial shipments to a maximum shipment per order. I mean, maybe that's true, but I really thought that the max shipments per order played, even if you were on partial.
Because what seems kind of strange to me is the fact that it doesn't. Like, I would think if it would only pertain to a certain setting, that field wouldn't become active until. It's kind of like, I don't know, but it's like a job contract, right? Like, if you set something to source, the source locations don't only become active one, but if you set it to price, those fields are grayed out. If you change this one on the order at the order level to partial order, does it? There's no way it could give you.
Okay, here's something. Why don't you just call it partial max shipments? I mean, partial / order doesn't even make any sense. Like,
well, why do they call it order entry when it should be sales order entry? Because you already have purchase order entry, service order entry, transfer order entry. It can't be just order entry. It should be sales order entry. Sorry.
You feel better now?
No, I don't. So what happens if you change this order to partial order? Does it do any? So it's only going to go off of.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, be that as it may. Tag and hold is another packing basis. Now, all right, help me out here. This ties into will call, does it not?
Yeah, it's on the front counter tab. Yeah, if you set something to when you print the pick ticket, check the pick ticket box. I think it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, the tag and hold, it's what it said. Basically, you want to print a ticket for this stuff, hold it to be picked up, which is why the will call checkbox automatically turns on when you print a pick ticket or create an invoice, because you're saying they're going to pick it up at my source location, which means that's what it's going to base its tax rates off of. Because obviously, a will call, you charge the tax from where how did you say it? Where possession of the item?
Yeah. So the way sales tax typically works, unless you're in a place where it doesn't work that way, but it is all about where title of goods transfers.
Yeah, that was what you said.
Yeah, and so if title of goods transfers, it is normally at the point of delivery. So if someone is, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize, like you put a ticket in for a customer and they say, yeah, ship that to my XYZ job site. And then you put the order in that way, you print the pick ticket, you pull the goods, and then they call and say, hey, I'm just going to come pick that up. Technically, you could potentially have the wrong tax on that order because they came and picked it up, and the tax jurisdiction for that order now should be changed to whatever the tax jurisdiction of your warehouse is. So that is something to think about. Now, we did find recently, Matt, that P21 is actually pretty flexible about that in the shipping window. You actually can, in the shipping window, even once you're all the way to the point where you're ready to confirm shipment, you can check will call, and it will flip the tax jurisdictions right then and there.
I think it's called front counter tax.
Yeah.
I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
I think they call it front counter tax. So yeah, that would be the example of, well, I was going to ship this, but they're coming to pick it up. When you go to confirm that shipment, if you check that will call or front counter tax, it will change to the pickup, the source location. It's based off the source location, the physical location.
All right, so does that, what you're describing there, I thought that setting would be respected regardless of packing basis. Are you saying that only applies if you have the packing basis set to partial order? we're sitting here like she's gonna answer
Like-
in real time because we're idiots.
It's Friday, man.
Yeah. So in any event, so for tag and hold, all of the items on the order, they get allocated if they're in stock and then picked and tagged normally. But then they go into like, I think quantity staged or something like that until they get released. I think the biggest thing is once you set an order to tag and hold, I don't think you can unravel it. It's always tag and hold.
And you cannot, once you print a pick ticket or even check to print it, that will call box becomes protected from the order entry screen. From the shipment screen, you still have the ability to unravel that. But bottom line, if you're shipping the goods, don't use tag and hold. That's not what it's for.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, this is really about setting the material aside and then releasing it in bits and pieces, which, I think that actually even, it enables this will call box, and you can say, or tab rather, you can put in, hey, this is the quantity I want to pick for this, and it's only going to print a pick ticket for that, which was the use case that our customer was trying to get to originally.
Right. But they wanted it without
the will call because they were actually putting it on their truck to deliver it. So,
what does the tag and hold tab have on it?
A tag and hold class, which basically is saying where the material belongs on the job site. So you can tag these items up so that when you say, hey, I need to release everything for rough in, you have the ability to do that. No, I'm not saying that. I'm answering in real time. Yeah, well, there's still a delay though. Okay. Yeah, see, I'm not sure on that either. I really thought that max shipments per order was respected no matter what the packing basis was. So the help's kind of throwing me off on that a little bit.
Which wouldn't be the first time.
Nor will it be the last. Okay. Well, have we just exhausted everything, or do we want to play around with some of these different scenarios?
I mean, I don't know if we really need to go through a shipping screen 4 times to show.
That sounds like a horrible way to spend a Friday afternoon. I agree.
Again, the only thing that I want to kind of circle back to, and we don't really have to, is because it has to do with dispositions of back orders and linking a back order PO. But I do have like a 2-minute video that goes over that on the channel.
Never miss an opportunity to plug that to you.
Hey, I put a lot of work in all those videos. No, I think, and again, we kind of picked this topic, because it was a Friday. We knew it wasn't going to be, we weren't planning this to be a 3 or 4 hour stream today. And they're not all going to be, right? Like they're not all 7-hour purchasing conversations. Boy, I wish they all were though. But no, I think, I mean, it's fun. How do I say this? It's funny to me, or odd to me, how many people don't really understand stuff like dispositions in P21. And it's one of those things where when you're going through your implementation, you're doing your train, it just gets skipped over. It's just like, it's just, and then nobody ever really understands or uses pretty much anything other than back order or cancel.
I think maybe that, to me, that is the story. And look, I mean, we help people through implementations, and we do application consulting for implementations. We don't do like training in mass. We typically point people to our YouTube channel, but we do like some train the trainer stuff and stuff like that. And I think one of the issues is that training takes place way early in the process.
Right, when it's all new, you're not using it 6 months before you have a system that you can even play in.
Yeah, and so I think that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is it's an ERP system. It is massive. It has so many different features and functions that it's hard to do justice and go deep on each subject, and be as complete as you possibly can. And again, that's kind of how this live stream was born, right? It was born from the idea that we keep having these same conversations over and over and over again, and we keep having customers and ourselves with the same frustrations. Because don't forget, we're on P21 too. We're not, we are consultants, we are developers, and we do all of that. We run our business on P21. And so we face a lot of the same challenges. I mean, we don't have like a lot of inventory and stuff like that, obviously, but we work the service order and opportunity system and the task system and credit management and AR and all of that stuff. And so that's why we wanted to talk about this stuff, because even if you get an opportunity to do like a user group presentation, which is great, and I've done dozens of them, and I don't mind doing them at all, you still are capped at 60, maybe 90 minutes. And that's just not enough time to do some of these topics justice and really talk through not only what the settings are, but examples of when you might actually want to use them. So that's why we enjoy doing this stuff, because Matt and I feel like this is our opportunity. It's our platform. It's our world here. So we can kind of make the rules as we see fit, and we'll spend 2 hours on a topic if need be, or 10 if it needs it. So, and we appreciate you guys coming along for the ride, because it makes it way more fun for us when we're not just sitting here talking into the void.
I do want to add one more topic on a disposition. Not much of a topic, but the difference between a cancel and a right-click delete.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So if you can get it set up right, and again, maybe we'll do this on a topic, we'll probably have to tag it in with something else. Lost sales are important. If I could have sold 100 of these and I just right click and delete it, I don't know that. I don't know I could have sold 100, but if I put 100 on there and then I cancel them all out and record a loss sales on that, I can at least see that, right? Like I can see that somewhere. I can carry reports on it. But it is important to know that if you right click and delete something, it's not the same as canceling it.
That's correct.
Now, obviously, if you've already shipped it partially, you can't delete it anyways. Your only option is to cancel the remaining amount. So just keep that in mind. Deleting, which is why it's not a disposition, it's not really deleting it. Nothing ever really gets deleted. But as far as P21 is concerned, it's deleted.
Yeah.
And you really can't use that natively for anything. The problem is, if you do want to enforce lost sales and make people, you can't force people to have to not use right click delete, and you wouldn't want to, because there are cases where you want to use right click delete. You entered the wrong item.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind, that cancel and delete are not the same thing when it comes to lines.
Yeah, Matt, I'm almost thinking like we need to spend some time. Like I think we're doing a fair job of entertaining ourselves, at least, but we're doing a fair job of looking at these different features in the vacuum. It would be an interesting thought experiment to say, hey, let's just sit in order entry for a session and talk about different scenarios that might come up when you're trying to do order management, what the different ways you can set P21 up are to manage those types of scenarios, where you've got that customer that says, don't ever ship me a back order, or hey, right, don't ever ship me more. I don't never want more than 3 invoices on a particular PO.
I don't never want. I don't think that was an actual sentence.
Dude, it's Friday.
Question. And I will say this. We respond, like if somebody posts a question on one of our videos or one of our, we have moved that topic up to maybe not necessarily the very next live stream, but it'll be the one after that.
Well, but we don't know what we answered. or
Wait, what did we answer?
or what we brought up.
So I can take the credit for it, because I'm sure it was me.
All right. Well, cool.
Well, no, I have to wait and see what.
Yeah,
what the
I know.
answer is.
Now it's like this is like the definition of uncomfortable silence. Oh, right click delete. Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right, you do get to take credit for that one.
Yes. And I will say we did have somebody that had us create a way to, because they wanted to capture that delete stuff, and we actually created something pretty cool that basically scraping the screen for data, even if it was right clicked and deleted, we were still capturing that into a custom table.
Yep.
So they could now there was the caveat that sometimes you're going to get random stuff that was deleted because it really needed to be deleted, but it was a way to more
to better understand the different ways that they might be leaking
Right.
sales, and for for me, it's something that things that I'm particularly passionate about really are sales pricing. I think is incredibly important. Inventory management is obviously incredibly important. CRM, I'm a big fan on CRM. User permissions. You know what? That's a good topic, because
that really is
we could hit the menu
Roles.
designer,
yeah.
roles, best practices for screen designer, and user maintenance, the application security tab, which, by the way, seems to change every time they release a new version.
Well, and also sometimes they'll tack something on to one of those yes nos that you don't know it's tech, because when they first put in Report Studio, it was tagged to something that was not related to it at all before they actually put in some more specific Report Studio
Now,
toggle.
so yeah, when you say import items, are you talking about importing data, or are you talking about items that you buy from overseas? I'm supply chain wired, so I want to clarify.
Yeah, because containers and stuff like that.
Containers and vessels is an
Yeah.
interesting topic.
But
importing
going
data,
back to Paul's comment, I have been wanting to do
Oh, no worries.
something on not even just setting up users and understand, but like role management and good practices for menu designers and dyna changes.
And,
so I think
the
that's a
number of things we would have to complain about.
Oh, it'd be a lot. There's purchase limit. There's the cost tab viewing.
That's it. We got to do it next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down for next Friday.
What could possibly go wrong with that?
Yeah, the worst is you'll find people that have access to accounting stuff that should never have access to
Yeah.
accounting stuff. And that again, you'll hear us complaining about it on the stream. That happens when people are frankly just being
Malicious.
lazy.
Yeah.
No, I mean just being lazy as far as, well, it's just easier if everybody has access to everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody's going to do anything. And next thing you know, you have somebody leaving
Right.
that went in and dumped out the sales records for all of their customers, and they just went to your competitor.
Yeah.
Have fun with that.
Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. I think that is going to be next Friday's stream. Let me just, you know what? Before I commit on that, I'm going to just take a quick peek at the calendar.
I'm completely wide open, and says you are too. Actually, and you know what's funny? Next week, this was our last week that we had our reoccurring streaming.
Oh, it sure is. So that's perfect. Yeah, I'm totally in. That's what we're doing. I'm blocking it right now. I thought I was. Okay, cool. There it is. Next Friday it is.
See, people, if you guys interact with us, you get whatever you want. It's just how that works. It's like my kid. Right?
That's totally not true, because that can go in so many wrong directions. Anyway,
all right.
So cool. Look, we really appreciate you guys. We will see you next Friday, 10:30 Central. Bring pizza or something. I don't know. But enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.